So there's actually a long history to trying to communicate with these kind of interfrequential beings in Germany, because that all started, some time ago in World War II, actually, where they set up some kind of projects in order to what they called the Außengeist, which actually means the mind from outside. So basically, the German scientists at that time, 1942, I guess, was the time span around that. They had this concept of the universe is operating in consciousness even outside our perceptible field. So what they did is they used a lot of high altitude, energy converters and try to connect to that, because they thought that that's gonna, win them the war. Because obviously something that's operating from outside of time and outside, and has a lot of, potential, can influence the outcome of certain events on Earth, and we might talk about that later. And it happened. So there is influence from that side of the universe as well, because everything is connected and everything's happening.
Yes, indeed. So you're saying it did happen. It did happen during World War II. There are so many amazing stories when you look at it from a phenomenon point of view that did happen during World War II. Is it a quick story that you could share with us of something they were able to use, or do we need to have another conversation on this?
I would say it's a pretty fascinating story. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, I'm obviously entering the story a little later in that timeline. So I don't know if the Germans at that time did actually succeed in setting up that conversation. I don't think so, and I also don't think that being 6, which is an higher frequential being, so to speak, would actually interfere with a conflict in a way that it takes position or something,
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, but what we did learn, and maybe I'm just referring to what's the experimental setup. So the setup itself is you have special isolated boxes, containers, so to speak, where one person, a human or whatever life form, can enter. And you isolate this room, and you then use special coils in order to compress the frequencies of reality in one location. So what's gonna happen is that the frequencies of that room are getting so compressed that through this you can actually communicate with this being 6, which is actually a translation from the German word. So it doesn't really have a name in that way, because what's interesting is that it operates at level 6 consciousness, while most people on this planet are actually mostly operating on level 3 conscious or level 4 consciousness, because that's the level of consciousness that this planetary environment right now can host. Which means, level 3 consciousness is obviously the material, linear consciousness that a lot of people still believe in, while level 4 consciousness is like an extended version of yourself. You're able to understand that you can do in the universe a lot more than material science actually thinks or talks about. And this is more or less the world of quantum phenomena. That's where you can in the level 3 level 3 consciousness, you can either have 1 or 0 if you want to operate on a technical level.
Reality. Yeah.
Right. And in level 4 consciousness, you can have 1 and or 0 and everything in between. So that's basically the difference. And there are already millions of people on this planet who are operating on level 4 consciousness. And it's getting more and more. So that's basically the time we're living in. which is pretty exciting to be.
It is exciting. And what we're going to be diving into now is what being six explain to you about what we are. And I'm going to be adding to this. This part will be a conversation about what the being with no name that is the beings that I have associated with and been from, what they had to say, because this is the first time I've actually found a very interesting match between, and they both have the same characteristics. So why don't you go ahead and start talking about what being six said about the nature of this hybrid species called human is.
Right. By the way, I really love that fact. We talked about it on Christmas Eve, actually, and I found it super interesting that you found this match. So if you allow me, I'd just like to finish that one story about the interference of being six in that time period in Europe. Because I found that very interesting, because we've asked being six, did it actually take action in some kind of way to interfere with the with Earth history, with Earth events, basically, and it says he, she, it says yes. So we, of course, we wanted to know what they did, and basically, being six can only operate with Earth people if there are, other ETs that are more invasive and, stepping over certain barriers that they probably shouldn't do. So to balance that out, being six allows itself, to take actions, but they're very subtle. And one thing they did is they said they were responsible for the for the thought of LSD, for the invention of LSD. And that's pretty interesting, because they operated outside of time and dropped that, thought and principle and the concept of LSD pretty close to Germany at a time where it could have made a difference. But as you probably know, Dr. Hofmann, who was the scientist, the leading scientist, he put that away. He was observing that, and he totally put it away and forgot about it years later. And that actually started a peace movement in the 70s. So that's one of the interventions.
Okay, so was it thought that with the discovery of LSD, that because the Germans and the German military hierarchy, Hitler, were into the underpin, then they were trying to understand and grasp and utilize the unseen forces in order to win the war, that they may have been subject themselves or open to taking LSD so they could expand their consciousness further?
Yeah, 100%. You got that totally right, because LSD actually is designed from outside of this planet in order to bring you into what they called an oceanic awareness of all. And that's basically the frequency where you're not actually able to be in conflict with other aspects of yourself, because you finally realize we are all connected and we are all the singular universal being. We shouldn't be, in some kind of conflict with each other. We should be working on, cooperation and thriving. So that's actually what they did. But the funny story is, and that's typical for temporal modification. You place an impulse somewhere, but you cannot actually, make it 100% sure. And Albert Hofmann, he's an individual, and he put it aside for so many years, and then it even swept over to the US. So you basically had this, peace and love movement in the 70s in the United States, Los Angeles, basically,
Yeah, in San Francisco, both.
San Francisco, yeah, sure.
In the 60s, yes. That's fascinating. Okay, thank you for that little bit of esoteric history.
I found super interesting.
It is.
It could have worked, though. Could have worked.
Considering the mindset that they were looking to expand consciousness, but to win a war, but that whole thing's so convoluted even in itself. The whole war itself and our understanding of it was so convoluted, but we know that they were looking to esoteric means to be able to have some kind of higher outcome or win. So this would fall within that, certainly. Yeah. So very interesting. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you might also want to consider joining Patreon, which allows me to keep all of this content free and available to everyone. And if you're looking for like-minded souls, you might also enjoy my online community called Our Neighborhood. Links to join are in the description.